Hello everyone, Brickdark here. Today we're reviewing the LEGO What If Captain Carter and the Hydra Stomper set, which has 3 minifigures, 343 pieces, and retails for 25 British pounds and $30 in the United States. Now let's take a look at those minifigures. So here we have Captain Carter in her stealth suit. This version is exclusive, and the one that comes in a more iconic and colorful original suit comes in the Disney Marvel minifigure series. And I like how this figure turned out. There is the exclusive shield right here, which is quite unique. Never really gotten a cap shield like this where it is just blue and silver. And I like how the design turned out. Somewhat resembles the Union Jack, as does her torso. Not fully, though. I feel like the original suit is just a much more interesting design, disregarding the figure, since the figure in the minifigure series has dual molded legs and a arm printing and all the bells and whistles. You can see here with the belt strap, there are a couple of black little indents. She uses Tonk's face from the 2020 Burrow set, not Bureau, what am I saying? And this face was also used for Shang-Chi's sister in the Battle for the Ancient Village set, whose name I'm not going to try and pronounce because I know I will butcher it. But yeah, pretty cool exclusive variant. Interesting to consider that we have two versions of this character, despite her maybe having only 40, 50-ish minutes of screen time in the entire MCU. Quite interesting. Here we have Steve Rogers, who has an exclusive torso print. Apparently, I could have sworn this came in some other sets, but no, it is exclusive to this set. He does have a parachute on the back, which is quite nice, though there is space in the Hydra Stomper, so I think they could have used the actual parachute piece that goes around the neck if they wanted to. The face is young Han Solo's face, which is interesting because they used this face for Hawkeye, and similarly, they used a face for Cap and Hawkeye back in 2016 with the Civil War sets, which is just an interesting quirk, I suppose. The figure doesn't have much going on, though I will say this is a more accurate color to what the Hydra Stomper should be, and we'll get to that in a bit, but should be more of an olive green, which is what this figure is. So I'm glad that they were at least able to represent it here. Our final minifigure is technically exclusive, though none of the parts are. It's just an exclusive combination. It's Red Skull, and this is technically our first ever MCU Red Skull, which is quite interesting, though it is the same torso and face design from the 2020 Avengers Tower set, though that set was $90 in the United States, so getting it in a cheaper set is much nicer. In addition, it has the Palpatine robe print for the legs, which I think does absolute wonders. It really does complete the figure from just having standard black, plain gray, plain legs. I don't know why I said gray. Really does complete the figure, and I really like that. What I'm not a big fan of is the Tesseract right here. They use a transparent blue Minecraft head, which I appreciate the ingenuity, but I think it's just comically big. The Tesseract is meant to be something that can reasonably fit in the palm of someone's hand. I personally think that the best Tesseract build is the build with the Disney Marvel Captain Carter from the minifigure series, where that one was 2 1x1 studs with glitter in them. And I think that perfectly represented the size, but they also would sometimes use a larger piece back in the 2012 Avengers sets, and this I think is just too big. It works kind of with the Volt and Thor's hammer. It does not work here because it's bigger than their head, which it just isn't. That's not how it is with the actual thing, even in What If. In addition, he also has a stud shooter, which you can push and fire. One of the last sets to actually use this more traditional stud shooter, if you don't count foil packs, since in 2022 they introduced that new style. But yeah, that's it for Red Skull. Really nice figure, and even though I really already have this figure, getting this combination of parts really does finish off the figure, and it looks very nice. So here we have the Hydra Stomper, and it's a smaller design than I initially expected it to be, but I still think it does look good and it does get the job done, even if it is the wrong color. It should be more of this olive military green, but LEGO is really against doing military stuff, and I won't get into stuff like the Osprey, but they're very against doing anything relating to the military. So I can understand the color change, and I don't think the screen looks bad like the Bad Bat shuttle. But certainly having this in the olive green would have been quite nice, and I think really elevated the look of the set. But let's start up in the bottom. You have the feet here with the repulsor blasts, forgetting what they're called. Then you also have some various sticker designs throughout. There's quite a lot of stickers, mostly the ones that go on these modified 2x2s. You can adjust the feet with these ball joints, and you can adjust them by moving them up and down. They're on socket joints, pretty standard for Hulkbusters. What isn't standard are these arms. So you have the fingers, which is all fine and dandy, as well as a stud shooter, which again, you just push and it fires very lacklusterly in that instance, but they work. It's the same build on both sides. So you can adjust the arm here at this ball joint, and it works well. What doesn't work well is this midsection, because you can only move the hand like this. You cannot rotate this part, which I think is a very major knock against the set. I can look past the color, but this, for what's essentially a very big buildable action figure, kind of, it's not ideal that you can't move this because the hand is permanently facing this way. Other Hulkbusters would have something like the ability to turn the War Machine Buster, which is quite similar to this in my opinion, had that feature where you could turn it at the forearm, and you just can't do that with this one, which I think is a big shame and a big disappointment. Moving on, though, you do have some more details, like a very nice Captain America shield. This part glows in the dark, and we'll show that off in a bit, but you do have some more sticker details. And then on the back, you do have these, I think they're the fuel cells or rocket boosters. You also have the Musketeer sword piece, or fencing sword, being used as an antenna, which is a nice part usage. Then you do have what used to be the armor pad piece for the Hulkbusters, with the print for the face. And now, I'm not a huge fan of LEGO's shift to doing the helmets this way. Because, so, first off, to preface, you can adjust this at two angles, at the back and then at the top. You can also pull this part down, and inside you have some spare ammunition for the stud shooters. So, you can fit Steve inside, close it on up, and with the old style where it was a dome design, the figure would be completely covered. You would not see any of it. But if we raise this on up a little bit, I'll let it speak for itself. This was a similar and I think more prevalent issue on the Ironmonger set. And I think it just looks very, very bad. It's the actual vehicle in universe does not have this wide gap with the pilot inside. I think that combined with the mid-arm, the forearm section, two biggest knocks against this set. It's just frankly unacceptable. It doesn't fully cover it, and I think just looks very bad from certain angles. Head on, looks good. Looks very good, actually. If it was the right color, I think this would be a top 5 Hulkbuster. Or one of the best. Top 5 isn't a good saying because there's maybe only like 6, but it'd be one of the best Hulkbusters. Looking on it from this angle, but you look at it from this angle and you can see Steve. He just looks terrible. I'm ragging on the set a lot, but there is not a huge amount to talk about. So, unfortunately, I do have to bring up the negatives because it's not a fair review otherwise. But let's look at the main attraction, one of the main attractions, the arc reactor that can glow in the dark. Also like the Ironmonger. Funny how much these sets share, isn't it? So that is what the arc reactor looks like in complete pitch darkness when you light it up. Looks quite nice. Let's see if I can kind of get an angle so you can see, yeah, just about the silhouette of the Hulkbuster, well, not Hulkbuster, Hydra Stomper. It looks very cool and menacing with that glow-in-the-dark piece. Really like that feature. Here is the box for this set. Bit of a thicker $30 box design with that very nice comic brick design they introduced in 2021. You can see down there with the Watcher. I forget his real name. You can see he's also there and in the corner. Mine came with a security protected sticker. Yours might too, depending on where you get it from. But underneath is the Marvel logo. On the back, shows off some of the features as well as the Legoized version. I do have the set that he comes in, and it's quite a good set. I do recommend that one. But this is not the Sicarian Iron Man review, which you can check out. This is the Hydra Stomper review. So that's it for the box. The instructions are a big square. Doesn't seem like there's any ads in it, which is interesting. Couldn't even advertise the Sicarian Iron Man. But what are you gonna do? Now, it may seem like I'm really ragging on this set, and I definitely do think that the forearm and the head are very large problems that really should not be overlooked. This should not set the precedent for Hulkbusters going forward. It's a step backwards, and that's never good. However, I do think that this is a very fun set. It is a Hulkbuster after all. It's always fun and posable, and I like getting all the Hulkbusters, and I can definitely tell you, having every Playscale Hulkbuster that's been released at this point, this is not the worst one. It definitely is not the worst one. Nowhere close. However, I don't think it's the best either. As you can probably tell, my issues with the forearms and the head, I don't want to understate those. Those are big problems I have with the set. The miscoloration, I don't really care that much. I think it would have certainly looked cooler if it was in that olive green, but at the same time, I don't really care as much. Unlike something like the Bad Batch shuttle, where I certainly do think the ship looks good in that same blue. But in a dark gray, I think might have looked a little better. Whereas with this one, I really don't care all that much. I think the set still looks great as it is. The figures are all very nice. They are all technically exclusive, even though really only 2 are. And for £25 or $30, you could do a lot worse, especially with what Marvel has been putting out this year. Stay tuned for a worst to first video on the 2022 sets of Marvel, because I have some choice words to say. But when everything's said and done there, I think that this set is a solid 6.5 out of 10. It is certainly a good and enjoyable set, don't get me wrong, but the forearms being unable to turn and the head just not covering the whole figure like it should, unlike previous Hulkbusters, I think are big enough to draw this back from being truly great. However, I still would recommend the set if you're a fan of What If, or if you want a cheap Hulkbuster. You can do a lot worse than this, trust me. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you guys later. Peace.